I think we have to continue to make our industry somewhere people want to be.
There are about 23 million apartments in the United States. That's kind of a number that's available out there. If we take the ratio of one maintenance person per 100 units, at that ratio, you will have ideally 230,000 maintenance professional openings throughout the country. So you have a national trainer for 23,000 maintenance professionals.
It's easy to retain employees. You know, you give them money, you don't hold them accountable, you let them do what they want to do, they'll stay, right? The wrong ones will. Like 30 or 40 leak work orders, and we're like, well, there's no way that all these are still leaking. And it's like, no, they are. and in fact, as we
welcome to property management.
Yeah, and in fact, as we start walking other work orders, we're finding, no, there's more leaks that you don't know about. So, and I had to remind them, like, well, you know, right now, reassigning a work order looks like this. So,
hey, if you're prop tech companies, this is a perfect conversation for you, because seriously, you mentioned to me that you came from Greystar, right? What was your role at Greystar? How long you been with them there?
So I was a regional maintenance manager for a third party. I covered Tennessee, Alabama, and a chunk of Georgia. So they had one person full-time over the Georgia assets, and then I had like a portfolio, maybe around 20 or so here. Chunk of Nashville, for the most part, was probably my biggest.
Back to the current day, so how long you been at Perennial?
Sure, been with Perennial for about a year and a half now, this time. So I was with Perennial real early in my career, as they were actually my last year as a service tech and my first year as a service manager back in, I think it was like 2017-ish. But yeah, I've been back this time in this role for about a year and a half.
How many units your company owns, manages?
Right now we're a little over 2,500. We're currently in the middle of development, so once we're wrapped up with that, we'll be a little over 2,600.
2,600. Do you also do third party, or is just own?
No, everything is privately owned. We've got two assets. Our owners are majority parties in, but no, everything else is just private equity.
How much maintenance personnel across all the properties?
Ooh, where am I at now? I think we have 23 across all of them, including we have a corporate support team that floats around. So we're actually looking to bulk that team up a little bit. But yeah, right now we're right around that mark.
Tell me about what you see in the market with talent. Is it easy to get talent? Is it hard?
Oof, gonna make me sad. I would say right now the best I see are, you can find quality service managers out there. To struggle, but you can find them. And some of my other best employees are entry level with zero to no experience, but that are passionate and want to learn and are excited about industry they can grow in. Everything in the middle is such a struggle. If they are a halfway decent tech, they are probably a service manager at this point because of how desperate the industry is. So there's a struggle there for really solid technicians.
Tell me about getting those guys entry level that don't know anything. Like, where do you find, not just you, but where does service manager find the willingness and the time to like train that person from zero to be able to like handle things? Because I think this has been a struggle of our industry too. How do we do our daily jobs as service managers and at the same time set time aside to invest in someone that's green?
Yeah, you know what? I think it comes down to a partnership. Honestly, I mean, when you think about how kids learn, it's not all the school's job, it's not all the parents' job. Like, you've got several people that have a share. Kind of the same thing. It's not fair to just dump everything onto a service manager. They have an asset to run, they have a team to manage, they've got vendors to manage. It's not really fair to just dump fully the training on them. I think that the company itself, needs to have some sort of training program. I think that we have wonderful partnerships with our supplier vendors. We've got technical schools in the area. We've got several, the apartment association. We've got several different areas where you can get some of that additional foundational training But then the service manager will always have a part. They're going to be that day-to-day building on that. So I think it's a partnership, but just like us when we were younger or fresh in the industry, a lot of that came from our own passion and wanting to learn. You can't force that on anybody. So, a lot of it is going to come from the employee themselves. If they really want to learn, there are opportunities out there, and then it's our job, whether that be in management roles or as direct oversight, for us to really encourage that and help that to grow.
How do we build an onboarding process that's actually meaningful? So I'm asking this because the typical onboarding process is, you get your employee on the first day and you're 500, work orders behind, and you just
keys in the map. If you get a map,
that's gravy, right? You push them to that, fill out your new hire paperwork, and do that gray skill training really quick. Can you do it by lunchtime? And then after lunchtime, you hand them 100 tickets. Hey, can you get at least 50 done by the end of the day? It's just sad, but it's typical for the industry, really, and it makes so many people not want to be there. It's not the best. It's not a welcoming environment to begin with. What can we as an industry do better? Improve that onboarding process.
Across the board, I'd say again, it's kind of a group effort. I think you said one of the issues right there is it's not a welcoming environment. I think it's one simple part is just making a welcoming environment. Whatever that looks like, making sure that their first day, they meet everybody. One of the granted, it doesn't work for everybody, but one of the cool things about our company is that we do our first day of onboarding at the corporate office. So you come here and do everything. But that also means that we get to walk you around. We get to introduce you to all of the operations team, these names and faces that might just be emails, for many companies. We really get to run you down every hallway. So everybody. You're probably going to go out to lunch with me, and we'll have an opportunity to talk and get to know you a little bit. And so we really do everything we can to make it a inviting first day, and to make sure that you have an opportunity to really complete those training classes, all that mandatory stuff. Do it in an atmosphere that you can really try and take that information in and understand it, versus just you're in the back room somewhere trying to do it at a property in between work orders. So that's one thing that we do. Another thing that many of my service managers do is they'll have them kind of tail them for the first couple days rather than just setting them free on their own. Again, it kind of helps them to ease into the process, get to know the property. You just don't want to throw them out there on their own. So I think that there's a process to it, but from the corporate staff to the on-site management team, make it a big deal when they come. Write their name on the board. It's silly stuff, but making sure that those little things can make a big difference when it comes to like you said, making an atmosphere that feels welcoming.
They do make a huge difference. I strongly believe. I've seen it firsthand. It's incredible what difference those little things make. Now, how do you train the person that's green? It's their second day on the job and it's their first day at the property. How's that go? How do they integrate into the site team, and how do you teach them? Walk me through the process. What typically happens with someone that doesn't know anything, right? They're just eager to learn, like you said, and how do we get them exposed to knowledge and help them grow?
Mm-hmm. It's going to be a bit case by case, but I'll say some of the ones that have gone the best in my portfolio is the ones where we really do try and find somebody good to partner them with. Oftentimes there may be, just because of our asset sizes, we'll have either a technician, if not, then maybe the service manager that they can work with for a couple days to get them kind of eased in. If they are completely green, even up to the point of let's go to Home Depot and let's talk about some of the tools that you need to have, and a timeline on we get it. Maybe you're not ready to buy $5,000 worth of tools day one, but hey, this is the stuff you need right now. This is the stuff you can wait a little while on. So my service managers typically do a pretty good job with that when they take on green guys. So it's always going to be a little different. Our training department is something we're building out right now. So my personal goal as far as that's concerned will be to really build out that foundation and to have a more clear, 30, 60, 90 day kind of onboarding process. So I think that's definitely part of it. And then having some more sequential trainings, almost like what I was used to going through school and through HVAC training, where you didn't just jump into the lab and learn how to charge a unit. It's like, no, you learned the fundamentals of it and you can build on that. So kind of from the same standpoint, I think when you got the new guys, I think it's really important to help them build that foundation and that understanding, and then you can kind of build on it as time goes. I think the worst thing you can do with a new employee is either partner them with the wrong person, so that they pick up a lot of bad habits. One of the coolest things about some of my entry-level fresh faces is that they are super excited and they want to learn. So either giving them bad excitement or having them pick up, maybe frustrations from other employees is a terrible thing. So you hate to see when that happens. So I think finding the right mentors and the right people for them to really connect with is super important.
Retention is another huge challenge in our industry, not only finding the talent, but actually get them to stick around. What are some things that we as an industry could do better? What are we missing the mark when it comes to retaining people?
You know what, a couple layers to it. I'll say as an industry, I think we have to continue to make our industry somewhere people want to be. The reality of it at times has been you can really focus on a trade and only have to really get good at one trade and probably have more potential as far as earnings. So for us, on the other hand, we've got to get pretty good, competent at several different trades, but oftentimes the pay scale didn't really align with that. So some things I think are, as an industry, we just have to, remember that at the end of the day, we're all at work for a reason. And so we have to make sure that aligns. But when it comes to more so on the company basis, again, I think it's important that it is guys feel welcomed, the guys feel, or the techs feel appreciated, and that we always invest in them. One thing for me here, though, on the flip side, I think it was really important to have not just a welcoming and understanding atmosphere, but also one of accountability. I wanted to make sure that we were retaining the right guys for the right reasons. It's easy to retain employees. You give them money, you don't hold them accountable, you let them do what they want to do, they'll stay, right? The wrong ones will. As we were kind of revamping and thinking about what we wanted our culture here to be, we definitely wanted to make sure that we rewarded our all-stars and that we also held the other, the people that weren't really leading up to the mark accountable, because honestly, that will frustrate an all-star. If they're seeing, hey, we're going above and beyond, and then another team member is not doing what they're required to do, but we're both seeing the same compensation, we're both seeing the same praise, well, let me go somewhere I'm appreciated. And so we want to make sure that our all-stars feel appreciated, and the ones that, again, we want to try and coach them up as well. But I think that's a really important part of it. I want to have people here for the right reasons. Pay is a part of it, but it is just a part. If you're burned out and you're tired and you need help, me paying you more doesn't help you not be burnt out. Doesn't help you get help, right? Two
different issues.
Two different issues, right? So it's making sure that we really do have a enjoyable atmosphere, that guys want to come to work every day. They want, they really enjoy what they do and who they do it with. And even making sure that there is that, some of my best experiences with companies have been when there is that camaraderie across the properties. So having those opportunities to get to know who's at the other sites and not feeling like you're just out here by yourself, I think is a beautiful thing, and it really it helps helps the teams to grow. But even when it comes time for support, you'll be able to get it a lot easier if you're just not a nameless property asking for help. It's like, no, I'm calling Adrian. Hey, Adrian, I need help. Like, can you send me a guy for a week? And when you have that rapport with the service managers and the service teams, it really just builds a really great atmosphere that people want to be a part of.
This episode is brought to you by Upwork, the maintenance platform built by operators for operators. If your work order system is slowing you down, it's time for a change. Upwork helps you streamline operations, boost tech efficiency, and track everything in real time. Smarter tools, better results. check them out at appworkco.com. I know you're very passionate about training, and we talked about training for quite a bit off camera. Where are we from a training perspective as an industry today, and where would you want to see us going towards? So give me like the current synopsis of how do you see, where do you see the industry right now? You know, is it enough? You know, tell the good, the bad, the ugly about everything that you see, and how do you envision the future for training?
I think most companies really fail to have a strong training program in place. I think that we really rely on team members to train each other, to look stuff up on their own. So I think that as an industry, I think that training is very lacking, and I would love to see us do better. As far as what that looks like, I think there are a lot of there's a lot of different schools of thought out there. You've got the kind of micro training, you've got these online trainings or the 3D trainings, you've got the hands-on training, and then you got the just kind of watching those long mindless videos that no one enjoys. I don't think it's a one size fits all, you know. I think hands-on training is a beautiful thing. We work in a hands-on industry. I think that there's always a place where you can make it work, where hands-on training makes sense. Now on the flip side, I think if you've got a portfolio spread across the US and you've got one here and one here and one here, it's really hard to put together a training program to fly everybody together, and we're gonna do one quick class and then fly everybody back to their home states. So I think that that is where, you know, the online trainings or these remote trainings may make a lot more sense, or even the local apartment associations are helpful to still try and get hands-on in those places. But I think that as we adapt technology and we find where it fits into our workflows, I think it's great, but I think it should never take the place of those hands-on trainings, because it's always going to be a hands-on industry. So you can't skip the hands-on training part of it.
Let's break it down. You correct me if I'm wrong, right? You're saying hands-on is like top number one choice, right? Unfortunately, that's not always possible for reasons of the ones you mentioned, distance, and also there's not enough trainers to cover. I was talking to Paul Rhodes at a conference like 3 weeks ago, and he said at the national level, there are only 10 national level trainers for the entire industry. So this is how crazy this is, right? We're talking about, there are about 23 million apartments in the United States. That's kind of a number that's available out there. If we take the ratio of one maintenance person per 100 units, and without actually getting into like, you know, is that the right or wrong, but let's just take that. Everybody's been following that for decades. And at that ratio, you will have ideally 230,000 maintenance professional openings throughout the country. So you have a national trainer for 23,000 maintenance professionals.
You get to split it 10 ways. Yep. Yeah, it's and that's where I think that those other programs, they are helpful. What I'll say, what I feel like sometimes you can miss, one, it's kind of learning styles, right? So oftentimes the guy that is good at putting his hands on something and fixing something and troubleshooting it is often not the guy that's going to benefit a ton from watching the video, right? Like there's just that just doesn't click until they have their hands on something. So it can be great kind of foundational information. Again, even in my process at school, I went to a 2-year program for HVAC. The first 6 months we were in a lab, we were reading books. I mean, we were in the classroom rather, we were reading books. We were learning about thermodynamics. We were learning about latent heat versus sensible heat. We didn't touch anything in that first 6 months, right? So we built that foundation. Then for the other year and a half, we were across the hall in the lab where we were putting all that to work and use. So, you know, kind of the same way, if you cannot handle a hands-on program, then again, like we said before, it's kind of multiple hands in the pot as far as, you know, it takes a village, right? You know, maybe you can only provide that foundation in, you know, online training or AI training. But then it is going to be a little bit more on your service managers to make sure that they are partnering with that and building on that and can provide that hands-on training. It is such a hands-on industry. You just can't skip the hands-on. You know, you have to figure out how to bridge that gap. And again, so, you know, you might not be able to do the hands-on training to bridge the gap, but you have to realize that there is a gap there between these videos and between, you know, the work that we actually have to do. And you have to have some sort of path to bridge that gap for whatever makes sense for your company.
I want to tell you about our new sponsor, iRestify. Property managers, here's the truth. Happy residents stay longer, and clean properties create happy residents. That's exactly what iRestify does. They specialize in multifamily cleaning and maintenance services that keep your residents happy and buildings pristine. They handle everything from common areas to turnovers. iRestify provides fully vetted professional cleaning teams and uses its proprietary platform to remotely monitor, schedule, and manage cleaning and maintenance operations across property portfolios. You get proof of service, quality inspections, and resident satisfaction reports, all through one easy app. Visit iRestify.com to see why so many multifamily pros are switching to iRestify. You mentioned the types of online training, right? The onboarding type, where someone like a training director sets up a training curriculum, and each employee for a particular position has to take that number of classes, right? I'm not talking about here preventive sexual harassment or fair housing. I'm not talking about compliance classes. I'm talking about classes that give you, or might give you a technical skill as a managed professional. And you're absolutely right. Sitting in front of a computer for 30, 45 minutes or an hour, like watching some video just to retain enough to just answer some questions that you forget the next day, it's very counterproductive. You also mentioned microlearning, right? A little bits and pieces videos and that are 3 to 7 minutes or 5 minutes, right? So that gets the thing down to like a lot more, and people tend to like it. I'm gonna venture to say that the better way to train in a not in-person environment, right, will be to use technology in a conversational way. And I'm going to explain. Let's just say that I'm a technician and I'm looking at that outlet right there behind me. And I pull the outlet and the wires and it's not getting 120. I don't know why it's not getting it, but I'm looking at the wires and I can't figure out. I could literally pull the phone out of my pocket, take a picture, plug it into ChatGPT, and ask the question, like actually speak to my app and say, I have this picture, I can't figure out why I'm not getting 120, but could you walk me through what the possible solutions would be for the problem? More often than not, you'll get an answer for that from ChatGPT. And ChatGPT is not a model that's being trained to provide those type of answers specifically. It provides answers for just about anything, but not specifically. The better the next step from like what I described, it's AI agents. There are companies now building AI agents where you could upload in an agent, you could like tell the agent like, this is the information that you need to be focusing on, you need to know. And when you're asked a question, these are your parameters. And this is, from that information, you're gonna provide the right answers for, for the technicians that are asking you.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's really interesting. I think that would be really valuable when you start to get more into like the specialties. I think that the foundational stuff, I would really want them to have a general understanding of, especially even when it comes to like what I tell my guys a lot is you need to know when it's time to throw your hands up, right? Like you need to know when you don't know enough about a topic to be safe. So I would kind of think about that the same way. Like, I want them to understand how a circuit works so that they can safely work on electrical. But, when we're talking about a circuit board or an appliance or when it really does get into this, we kind of get deep into that troubleshooting chart, yeah, now I want to ask, my agent, hey, I'm looking at this model. What are some common issues? Are there, one thing I did 2 years with Sears doing appliance repairs. And one of the super valuable things we had there was just the service bulletins. We just kind of have to guess at stuff based off of how we know that this, in general, this unit operates in often cases. But there it's like, no, I could put in the model number. It's going to give me all these service bulletins that oftentimes were, more so private information that wasn't public, where you would find a bunch of very weird issues where it's like, oh, well, this, water can leak back in this weird direction. So you need to take this off and put a tape over that piece and then put it back and it's fine. Where it's like, I would never know that just off of guessing, but once you know it, it's a very simple repair. So that's where I think something like that would be very cool, where it could pull all this extra data, put it all together, so you're not having to hunt through several different places. And even, you could pull the service sheet out of there, but you being able to have the most up-to-date version always in front of you and easy to access would be awesome. So I think there's still like that foundational learning that's necessary because you want them to understand the concepts. And I also feel like I feel like the danger to that would be, I was talking to somebody the other day about making sure that you push your techs enough to attempt, right? So sometimes you can get guys that'll get really comfortable going directly to you immediately. And they're like, hey, I looked at this thing, I don't know what's going on. It's like, all right, well, did you take it apart? What tests did you do? Do you have your tools? Like, or did you just walk in there and say, I don't know. So kind of the same thing. I feel like I wouldn't want AI to be the first thing that they go to immediately. Like I would want them to still be able to engage that part of their brain, that troubleshooting. And then when they get to a certain part, then yes, let's pick up from here to help me, get into these kind of specialties. Because again, we do, staying up to date in HVAC, plumbing, electrical, from a code standpoint, from a even appliances, what the newest models are, it's difficult. It is very difficult. So for you to have something that, you've got this general understanding, this basis, and now I can pull for these specialties and make sure all my information is up to date, that's awesome.
So next I want to slide into the technology part, because we talk about how technology could actually enhance the training experience, but let's talk about technology, specific technology for maintenance, like work order management, make ready management. You mentioned in our conversation off camera, you mentioned a few names. So if you'd like to kind of share your thoughts on various pieces of technology, like, pros, cons, what you've seen so far, and what are some things that you haven't seen any of them doing and you wish there'd be a product out there to do?
Okay, that's a good question. So I'll say, I think in general, it's definitely the direction we're moving in. AI is getting shoehorned into every bit of our business one way or another. So I think that it's definitely something that we are going to have to adjust to and figure out how it works for us. I've worked with several companies, and we're actively working with some now still. I think my biggest thought when it comes to AI and how it works into the workflow is kind of figuring out how to emulate what we're doing now, but make it simpler. I was talking to one of my service managers about some software we're bringing on now. They said, well, they're never thinking about, what it's like for us to do it. They're only, everybody's out there, they're just selling to the managers and the directors. And I'm just like, well, they are thinking about who their clients are, because that's who they're selling to, so it's not an accident that they're doing it that way. So that's when it comes back to us of making sure that when we're taking on these softwares, that we're not just looking at, oh, this will be so easy for me to see my portfolio. It's like, well, but how does it affect their day-to-day work? So that's always something when I'm thinking about the workflows. I don't want it to be more time consuming without a reason. I don't want it to, I really do want it to make their jobs simpler than anything. I was talking to a software developer earlier this week, and just had to remind them they were talking through the process of reassigning work orders, and they have an automated system, and so that's great. And if that works, then you can kind of take all the skill sets and locations and availability and all that kind of into account, and we really, once that really is smart enough to do its job, I can definitely see value to that, because then the guys won't have to spend a ton of time on that. But, reassigning is always going to be necessary. And so I was talking through that because it was really a multi-step process, and it was really kind of cumbersome to reassign. And I had to remind them, like, well, right now reassigning a work order looks like this. So
hey, if you're prop tech companies, this is a perfect conversation for you, because seriously, you're building product that doesn't involve the end user. You just said that. And that's straight from the horse's mouth, not yours, but your technicians. And I'm a big believer, I'm a big fan of telling prop tech companies, don't build your product without your end user involvement. And they're saying, yeah, but we constantly ask for feedback. Let me tell you, I call bullshit on that, because there's no incentive when you say to Jimmy that struggles out there in 100-degree temperature, when you ask Jimmy, could you give me some feedback on my software, on my beautiful software that I built for you? The last thing on Jimmy's mind and on his priority list is to give you honest feedback. He's so worried about what's out there, how to fix that AC, how to deal with the heat. The less problem in his mind is, now I'm gonna help this company build a better product. So what I advised them was pay people to tell you, literally hire end users to help you build that product. They use it natively, it makes sense to use it. Don't assume and don't think that you're better than the end user or smarter, and you gotta build this beautiful thing that they just gonna love it, because chances are they won't. Mm-hmm. It's something that I'm seeing over and over again. What I'm also seeing on the other hand is product that people love. It's product that has built by end user with the end user in mind. In other words, property management companies like yours, they looked around, they shopped, just like you're in process of doing, right? They shopped around and they didn't find anything to satisfy their needs. And they said, you know what? We could build our own. Mm-hmm. They originally built it internally. They loved it because it was with direct input from the end user. They built it for the end user, not to be like $1 billion company and sell. And then after that went well and everything, they start having clients saying, did you think about selling this product? This is an amazing product. And eventually they went on the market and they marketed to others too, right? So others could benefit from their product. So those are the products that I'm seeing working. So I'm curious about how that conversation continued.
Yeah, well, it went good. I'll say we've been partnering with Elise AI Maintenance recently, and they have been very open to feedback. They really have been asking for it and want to understand. And one of the big questions normally after I tell them how I want something to work, they're just like, why? And I'm like, all right, well, because this is how our workflow works, and this is this is why it's cumbersome how it is, and this is what we're looking for. And so I'll say they've been really good partners with us recently. That's great, and I'll say agree with you. Some of the guys that I thought I was going to get a ton of feedback from, got none from, and other guys, meanwhile, I've woken up at 6 o'clock and I've got a whole 10-minute screen shared video of him doing stuff and saying, no, I want it to work like this and not like that. So it's me finding the right people to be voices and making sure that once I do get that feedback, then I follow up on it. I told them yesterday that there's some things from the portfolio view that I would love to be different, but I'm like, I don't even want y'all to focus on my stuff right now. Mine is serviceable, we can make it work. I need y'all to focus on the application that my guys are using every day, because I really want it to be easy for them. So I think there's a lot of it, and it is kind of always a back and forth, and we mentioned that earlier as far as how his stuff always worked. You can't always be tied to that's how everybody else does it, or that's how we've always done it. But on the flip side, you do want to understand, what is the current flow? Why do we do it that way? Is this really simplifying, or are we just shoehorning AI in because we're an AI company? Again, some of the summaries can be incredible when AI can just dig through all these things and you come out with this report knowing, all right, this is how many dishwashers I've got that are going to need to repair. This is where my flooring budget needs to look like for next year. Some of that stuff is incredible. But now, again, thinking about where you started at, I think another one I'm always looking back is the electronic make-ready boards. You know, the guys are used to these dry erase marker boards in the office or in the shop. It's this quick to add a date or change a date, you know? So now when we sit down here and we're having to spend 30 minutes or an hour scheduling all of our vendors and printing all this stuff out and oh, I forgot that one, so let me add that in. Now I gotta reschedule all these other ones. It really can be a painful process. And so how easy is it to add notes? How easy is it to assign stuff? How easy is it to send stuff to our vendors? So I think for me, always kind of balancing that, explaining the value to guys, helping them to see, hey, this is different, but you know, this is how it's going to save you time. This is how we envision this working. And you know, then let me know, hey, does it really work that way or does it not work that way? I liked your point in a different podcast talking about the screwdriver versus the power drill. I think that's a great illustration because you don't have to explain why a screwdriver is less efficient than a power drill. If I hand you a screwdriver to do a job and then I hand you a drill, you're naturally going to enjoy using that drill and not immediately not want to use a screwdriver. And so I think that a lot of the AI stuff or these as really technology in general, when we adopt it, it should feel like that. And if it doesn't feel like that, we should really be asking ourselves, is this as valuable as is this the format that's going to work? Is this even somewhere that AI is going to benefit us? Or maybe this is an area that needs improvement? Because you shouldn't have to really explain it shouldn't be a hard process to explain why it's valuable. So I think that is another thing I really keep in my mind as it comes to tech stacks as we look at stuff or even evaluate what we currently have.
If you were to think about some specific feature, like, you know, just looking at your current workflows and everything and say, I would like to see this specific thing happening or like this specific feature to exist. Can you name one? You know, and you could name more than one. Is there anything like on your wish list when it comes to technology for maintenance that you wish you had, you don't currently?
You know what? I won't say nobody has it, but I'll say it's not as common as I think it should be.
Maybe it's not available to you, or it's not so common.
Kind of what we said earlier. I've never had the same access to appliance information and everything as I had when I was working for appliance companies. I mean, down to you would get your explosion charts, you could order the part directly from that. I mean, everything was kind of done through that software. I've seen some where, yeah, you can put in a model and serial number and kind of save that information, lock it to an apartment. So when you're working on it, it'll tell you, oh, you're still in warranty. Like I've seen that, and you've got some of your MRO suppliers where you can get those explosive charts and can obviously order stuff through them, and they can make it kind of a cool process. But having that level of information tied into your typical management software where you're actually pulling your work orders is something that would be incredible that I haven't seen replicated.
I want to go now and pull out of your expertise a few nuggets out there. The first one will be, tell me about an extremely difficult, messy situation that you found yourself in, and kind of like tell me the story, how you pull yourself out of that. How did you turn things around? What would be one memorable one?
I'll say with the third-party management, some of the other companies I've worked with, you do kind of find yourself jumping into some difficult scenarios where assets have just been in disrepair, and you're coming into a stack of work orders this big. It's always a bit of a struggle getting caught up. One thing I'll always encourage people is that the way that you may operate to get caught up may not be the way that you operate in a normal situation. So you need to know when to go into kind of emergency triage mode and then when to switch into regular operations mode. You don't want to, if you're in the wrong situation, you can't operate, what they say, battlefield medics. Like that's not how you operate in the hospital, but that's what you do on the battlefield, right? So you want to make sure you're operating like you're in the right place. So I think for those, my focal point is always on the turns. Sometimes you'll walk in, you walk into 400 work orders, you walk into 40 vacant units. if you rush through those vacant units, it's only going to create more work orders because you're going to have poor turns. You're going to get 10 more work orders out of each one of those turns. Now we got 800 work orders. So I always try and stop it there. You kind of have to triage the current work orders and just chunk away at it. But I really try and make sure we kick out pristine make readies at that point, to close the back door, make sure we don't have anything else coming in fresh, and we can really start to chunk away at it. So it's been something I've done on several over the years, but that's really when guys are kind of overwhelmed and don't know where to start, that's really where I always encourage them, like, start with your turns, make sure that you do not get any callbacks out of these units, and then you work your way through the rest. And at some point, then you knock those down and you start doing some PMs and try and get ahead of it. And so there's obviously multiple steps, but when you're in that triage space, it's really making sure your turns are perfect.
Can you pick a specific one that kind of like sticks to mind today, like a specific one that you describe, like having more than one occasion, right? Just and how you did it?
You know what? I would say two. One, very, very early in my career, probably my second year as a tech, we were an asset that was supposed to have a team of 5, and we got down to, we should have been a service manager, assistant service manager, technician, and a groundskeeper. We got down to just tech, and a grounds, and I was one of the techs. And we were somewhere in the neck of the woods, 350 work orders or so. Kind of same thing. I mean, we just, you chug away at it. You make sure, you cannot afford callbacks. Again, like rushing through it, it can not feel like the right thing to do sometimes. It's sitting there and taking your time and really making sure when you're looking at 350 work orders, it can be hard to sit there and really focus on one. But if you're getting callbacks, if your turns are bad, you will never get caught up. So we were able to knock it down. And so when the service manager and assistant finally started, I think we were at a pretty, goodness, that's right, 15 years ago, but we were at a very average, place at that point. And it was also finding the reset with the residents as well. Making that call. Another thing, sometimes you can kind of want to shut off the work orders and say, okay, well, if they're older than 30 days, they're probably not, they probably were done. They just didn't close them out. But it's taking the time, whether it's us or whether it's partnering with your leasing team, to say, hey, we need to call these people and see, do you still have this problem? To see maybe I don't have 350, but maybe I still have 250. Maybe a lot of these things still are there, but it helps to turn the corner for the residents as well, for them to, if they have been sitting there and the property is in disrepair and they are frustrated with management and they are just generally unhappy, you going in, saying, hey, we see you have a work order that's been open for 60 days. Like, are you still experiencing this issue? Okay, we're scheduling you for tomorrow. Again, it takes time, but it can really do a ton when it comes to kind of shifting that reputation, shifting how the residents feel about the management team and the maintenance team. So that was able to really turn the corner for us there. Another asset was more recent, probably 3 or 4 years ago, in Nashville that I took over, and it just was in disrepair. We were at that point where we had like 30 or 40 leak work orders, and we're like, well, there's no way that all these are still leaking, and it's like, no, they are. and in fact,
welcome to property management.
Yeah, and in fact, as we start walking other work orders, we're finding no, there's more leaks that you don't know about. So we kind of from a triage standpoint, we pulled people from other properties. We kind of used all the resources we had. We were reaching out to our vendor partners to really tackle everything and get it down to a manageable portion and getting the right team members in site. Again, I was in the regional role at that point, so getting the right service manager there to support, getting other service managers there to support as they were getting caught up, so that he could kind of focus on his normal management job at that point. But then I had other guys that could come in and do 30 ACs because that's how big the stack was. So, and we were able to get them down to a manageable point as well. Again, kind of same philosophy, really focusing on great make readies and then chugging away at the work orders until we get it down to a manageable place.
How about a very humbling experience that you had throughout your career?
You know what? I will share a lesson pretty early. Actually, it was earlier in my career at Perennial when I was here the first time around. something that stuck with me. We were on at the time it was a 2-person property. We really needed a third. And we brought on somebody that was new to the industry, and through an assistance program where they were kind of learning. I think it was a great program. Unfortunately, I think we just had the wrong person in that role, and so they were kind of taking advantage of it. I was younger, found myself getting pretty frustrated because I'm like, we need this third person, and this guy's not doing his job. And for better or for worse, I've never had a problem finding my voice. So I shot my frustrations to, what role was she in at the time? Our director of operations. I don't recall exactly what the position was, but she kind of checked me and said, you have points, but don't wait so long to talk about an issue to the point where you're so frustrated that you can't keep your emotions out of it. Because she's like, once you throw emotions into it, what you're saying kind of goes out of the window, and all the people are seeing is you venting. So that is something that I really took away from it, because I was like, you know what, you are 100% correct. Like I kind of went off the handle, and I was still in a respectful way, but definitely was talking from frustration and not in actuals. And so that's something I've always tried to carry with me in my career, is knowing, either talking about stuff early before it's really become a big issue, or sometimes, when you're in the heat of the frustration, you need to take a step back, let yourself calm down before you have that conversation, decide if it's even worth having, or if it is worth having, kind of the right way to do it. So yeah, she kind of put me in my place a little bit that day. So I I do recall that.
Joel, anything you wish we would cover during the conversation we didn't have the opportunity to?
You know what? One of your sample questions was about legacy, and that was funny because I am 38. I do not spend a ton of time thinking about my legacy, honestly.
I love you bringing legacy up. My editor chews me up all the time. Like, go away from like the same questions. Ask. He suggests other questions too. It used to be a question that I ask every single guest of mine. I'm glad you're bringing it up. So this is for you, Adin. People want the legacy question, man. Don't doubt me. So yeah, let's chat legacy.
Nah, you're good. So you know what? Again, I hadn't really thought about it. To be honest, I often think about the impact I want to have currently and the atmosphere, and I'll say for. When it comes to emulating or kind of deciding what type of leader you want to be, I always think about the leader that I wanted to have. And, I've had some great leaders over the years. I've had some poor leaders over the years. And you learn just as much from both of them, right? So as I look back, I look at the things I really valued and say, you know what, I want to make sure I provide that for my team. And then I look at the things that I felt like I didn't get, the times I felt I needed support desperately and wasn't getting it. I'm like, I never want my guys to feel that way. So I'm always thinking about it in a very like right now or in the soon future. So, but when I thought about legacy, it made me think back again. Recently, my predecessor with Perennial, he retired, and he's been in the industry for a long time. At his retirement party, we had one of the guys that he mentored in the industry from the jump. He brought him in. He was a guy that lived at the property. He brought him on as a groundskeeper and trained him up. And he had 25 years in the industry. He was actually an early mentor that I found that I really emulated as far as a service manager. And when I look back, he was really a person that I would say, really mentored me. And then I was there. And then I also had at the time, service manager. Now he's one of our area service managers that I was able to mentor and brought in with me a couple companies ago as a make-ready tech. He had a bunch of management experience in other fields, but he was learning maintenance on the fly. So it was a really cool moment for me to look and see, kind of his industry children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren all there in one room. And so, you know, when it comes to that, I would love when I'm ready to hang them up, to look around the room and be able to see, you know, the industry impact is cool. And I think that if many of us are fortunate to be able to look and see, and impact on the company is cool as well. But for me, it's really being able to see the individuals that I've really been able to have impacts in their personal lives, you know, that they've been able to support their families with this wonderful industry that we all love and hate and love again. Find yourself on that emotional roller coaster. So when it comes to legacy, you know, I really wanted to be the people in that room when it's time for that retirement party.
Great chat with you today, Joel. Thank you for taking time out of the busy day. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.